What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to talk about what's happening all over the world when it comes to news and data like that. What's going on with the economic data, what you should be watching for on the charts, is Tesla's dipping a little bit more during the pre-market session. Before I begin the doubles information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. The offer ends very soon in just about 10 days. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to Tesla. Looking at Tesla, we're seeing this thing dip pretty hard as we got some bad news that came out. Barclays has come out and they cut their overall stock target on Tesla on expectations of negative Q1 earnings. This is some big news that came out. In anticipation of Tesla's upcoming Q1 earnings call next week, they revised down its stock target for the giant. And this is some big news that has come out. So they're talking about how EPS may not be that great. We're talking about how there could be very, very different changes in the investment sentiment. And they're talking about how Tesla has to come up with different plans to help offset more potential downside. They've cut their price target to about $180 a share from 225, and they gave it an equal weight rating. So they're saying it's going to perform equally with the markets, but they're expecting weak earnings for Q1. This is what reports are showing. So they want to see a lot of improvement for Tesla to get upgrades, and that's what they're saying, at least for the time being. For the overall market, we had some news that came out. Initial jobless claims was as expected at 212,000. We also saw the same thing with continuing jobless claims aligning with expectations. Besides all of this, we also had Bowman and Williams giving speeches, not to mention later on, we have Bostic giving speeches. Then we have some bill auctions coming out. So there's going to be some important things that come out later on, at least for the markets. A bunch of Fed speakers and some bill auctions. But so far, the data that had to come out is out already. Now, with the whole situation involving Israel and Iran, let me just make it clear that right now, give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. Right now, Israel is now in a position where it's deciding how it's going to respond to Iran as it warns against retaliation, right? And that's very, very important. Iran is once again saying that they'll attack back if Israel attacks, and Israel is threatening that they're going to have to respond to what Iran did. It just goes back and forth and back and forth. This whole situation is still very tense, and that's still a little bit negative for the markets. Moving forward, we have a losing streak for the S&P 500, the Nasdaq Composite, once again continuing to dip quite a bit. There's news that has come out that Alphabet, they're basically in a very, very interesting position where they're going to be laying off more and more employees. They terminated more than 28 employees already, and they may continue with more of these rearrangements and layoffs. So some big news coming out. We also have new news coming out that there aren't any signs of slowdown despite the high-profile safety issues in the aviation world right now. Delta Airlines and United are included in this, and they're expecting record travel this summer despite that. We had basically TSMC on Thursday beat expectations. I'm going to talk about their earnings in just a second. And not bad whatsoever. They actually had pretty decent earnings, in my personal opinion, with good guidance. And that's pretty much it for now. We're also going to be listening to the Fed today as we have a lot of speakers. So that's pretty much it, at least for the time being. Now I just wanted to mention we had earnings that came out from TSMC. We had them come out this morning. Then we also have Netflix coming out later on today after the market closes. So don't forget about that. So for TSMC, just as a quick reminder, they did relatively well. Their net revenue rose 16.5%. They beat on net revenue with $18.87 billion above expectations. Same thing with net income. That was also a beat for them. They beat on earnings. They're saying that for the second quarter, their business is to be supported by strong demand. They also had good expectations. So I would say pretty decent earnings overall. And I would say that once again, with the overall earthquake that happened in Taiwan, that was a little bit negative for them, but they're still expecting strong guidance nonetheless, and no power shortages should affect them as much. So not bad whatsoever, good earnings from them, and we'll see how things go moving forward. Now, when it comes to other pieces of news for Tesla, there's a lot of fear right now that Tesla is going to get more downgrades and that their earnings aren't going to be as good after what these analysts are saying. So there is a risk of a little bit more downside, but we have to watch and see how it holds support. Yes, we're barely at 151 a share, but even if Tesla dips a bit more, watch 150 as key support. We'll have to see if Tesla could hold 150. If we lose 150, that's going to be a very, very bad sign. So we have to hold this 150 support. If we lose it, we have this gap to fill all the way down here around the mid 140s. 146 is coming if we lose 150. So that's where this gap happens to be over here. So we will see if Tesla ends up filling this gap or not all the way down here in this like 146 zone. If Tesla loses 150, then we're going to likely see, a bigger move to the downside. That's going to be something worth noting. So you want to be very, very careful with all of this coming out. That's going to be key for Tesla anyways. If as far as Tesla goes, though, as this thing is dipping right now, watch and see if we could hold 150. That's going to be our key support. We could test 150 to 152, and we have to see if we could try to rebound. If you get a rebound, look for 153.8, then 155. As of right now, the share price looks a little bit lackluster to me. It is continuing to dip, at least during the pre-market, and there is a risk of it dipping a bit more, but watch and see if we could hold 150. If we lose that, we turn a lot more bearish. If we can't hold 150, we're going to be dipping all the way down to fill the gap, in my opinion, in the mid 140s. If we hold above 150, yes, Tesla could rebound, but as of right now, the share price is looking weak. It's continuing to sink for the time being. Now, for SPY, I have a different perspective. As you guys know, SPY has that gap to fill at 497. SPY is barely at 152 as well right now. If we try to rebound, we have to try to get back above 504.74. If we break through this, we're going to be looking for a nice bounce. And if we reject here, we have to be looking at 500 as support. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 497. So look at 500 as key support. I think SPY is going to test this and kind of shuffle a bit. If we do dip a little bit more, we could drop all the way down to 497 and then get a bounce after that. I find that as a strong possibility. Or we could even attempt to rebound from here. But I think that we're just going to be watching how we end up reacting to these support and resistance levels. Watch 502.3 to 503, 505 above that. If we break through 505, we turn bullish. If you lose 500, look at 497 as support. So we'll see how things go from here. But in my personal opinion, we're kind of stuck within this range. And then once this range continues, we'll see if there are any developments. In my opinion, SPY is in a very, very critical place. I think that it's either going to dip to 500 and then start dropping to 497 and then bounce, or it could retest 500. If it holds this, then it could bounce from there. But I think that off one of those levels, we might see a little rebound. We'll just have to watch. We're not ready to bounce yet. We have to give it a little bit of time just to be safe. Same thing with the QQQ. For the triple Q, I'm going to be watching support at 425. If we lose that, we could be dipping all the way down to like the 422 area, but somewhere between 422 and 425, we might see some buyers step in, might retest that support, and then we could be looking for a rebound back up to 429, if not 430 plus from there. So either we drop to 425 and then bounce to 430, or we lose 425, go down to 422, and then we bounce to 430. But I am anticipating a move like that on the QQQ, so I'm going to give this a little bit of time, and we'll see how well it holds its support. For Nvda is currently at this 848 area. It is possible we actually dip a little bit more on Nvidia. If we fall all the way down to about 834 and we lose support, we're going to easily fall into the 820s and then try to bounce after that. If we hold 834, then we could try to rebound. But as of right now, I just see a slight risk of it kind of dipping a little bit before we see an attempt to go back up higher. So that's what I'm seeing on the chart right now. At least on Nvidia, there's a downtrend being respected. Still a little bit bearish looking, so it could dip a little bit more. But then watch this support in this 834 area. Can we bounce off that, or do we dip a little bit more into the 820s and then get that bounce? So, excuse me, I do see a risk of this dipping a little bit, but then watch and see what it does from there. For Apple, we're looking pretty weak right now. We're barely at 167.6. We're just barely at this support right over here. I think that there's a risk of Apple dipping all the way down to 167.5. If we lose that, look at 166. If we hold this, we could rebound, but we're at support right now at 167. The last time we held this support, we saw this thing rebound twice. So we have to see if 167 holds or not. And we're going to be very patient with this nonetheless. That's going to be very, very key for us. All right, so we'll be watching to see what Apple does from here. With that being said, that's what I'm saying, at least for the main five in the markets. Just a few more. We have like Amazon trying to rebound a bit. We're going to see how well we hold 180. If we lose 180, look for 178. If we hold above 180, we could try to push back up to 184. So I'm going to be watching that very carefully. And for Meta, it's the same thing essentially. If we continue to dip, you're going to be looking at this basically we have 490 to 488 as our key support. If we dip lower, look for a test of that range, but we have some strong support at 485 to 488. And if we try to turn bullish, you want to see it hold above 500. If we hold 500, we could be looking for a pushback up to about 507. Overall, I'm going to be watching Meta very carefully. So my general view of the market is that it could dip a little bit more, but there could be a bounce coming if we do drop more. SPY could go down to like 497 for instance and then bounce, or if we hold 500, we could bounce from here and just dip a little bit. So I anticipate a bounce is coming, but we'll see if we drop a little bit more first before that happens. That's my view of the general markets. Tesla's looking a little bit different. It's looking a little bit weaker compared to the market because of all this bad news, all these downgrades and such. So watch it very carefully and see how it reacts to 150. It could get very close to 150, and we'll see if we bounce or not. If it fails to bounce, then it could fill its gap and then bounce. So watch and see, does Tesla bounce off 150? Or do we lose 150 and then drop all the way down to the mid 140s and then get the bounce? I'll be watching that very carefully. All right, guys, hopefully this video was helpful. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.